Hello everyone, DM Gashbad here, and we are back with another game of Rusty Dagger. Rusty Dagger is an indie solo RPG game by Table Salt Games. They come in these really small rule books, like a 1/8 page zine format. They're just a series of short adventures that you can send your chosen hero on with a collection of friends and rabble and mercenaries that they pick up along the way. We are following the exploits of Raskin the Reptile, notorious, infamous mercenary that is largely assumed to have been killed long ago. He is an expert swordsman, or hammerman in this case, and he's pretty bad at everything else. He is at level 3, which means that he's picked up 2 skills. He's picked up Second Wind, so once per combat encounter he can take an additional action, and he's taken Heavy Blow, so he can use 2 actions in a round to strike with his weapon and cause 2 wounds if he hits. He's got 12 health to start. In addition to his trusty hammer, he's carrying a Maiden's Ring, which gives him +1 Candor. That's one of his stats, his charismatic talkie stat. 2 small healing potions, a Vial of Acid, and the Revive Potion. With him, as always, is one of his few surviving companions, Jill. Jill was a villager that we picked up in the Den of Rats campaign. Jill has 4 health and all zeros for her stats, so she's -2 to everything. But she makes up for that with pluck and courage. She's carrying a small healing potion, a potion of invisibility, and a magic robe, and we don't know what the magic robe does, because we're not very smart as far as magic stuff goes. And our newest companion is Vilde the elf. Vilde has a massive 12 health, and he is an expert archer. He's +3 with his archery skill, he's +2 with his agility, and he's not great at the rest. -1 swordsmanship, no modifier to brawn. He has a longbow with 5 arrows. He has the Ring of the Silver Arrow, which means that he doesn't take modifiers for targets being in cover, and he has a small healing potion. The thing about Rusty Dagger is that the higher the level you go, the less options for adventures that you get. So seeing as how we are 1 point away from going up to level 4, we better do a level 3 adventure while we still can. So going on to the Rusty Dagger Facebook group, I went and downloaded the Red Widow. It's for levels 2 to 3, so we're at the high end of this sort of thing. But since there are only 2 adventures that I can find for levels 4 and above, this is the kind of adventure that I'm going to go on unless I want to run out of them. This is a fan-made creation, by the way, written by a guy named Peter Oglesby. Thanks for posting this. The adventure starts with our little band of miscreants staying at a small village. We're all drawn outside by a big crowd who's gathered around a body that's been discovered by the well. Sure, we see dead bodies all the time, but I guess this is kind of a big deal for the locals. In fact, this is not your regular old murder that, say, our group would commit, but the body appears to be drained of blood. This leads people to start shouting about vampires, and so hang on, the experts are here, we're gonna go and we're gonna take a look at this and see what we can figure out. This is our first challenge of the adventure. We're going to make an arcane check with a difficulty of 8, and it says specifically the arcane check is against the hero, Raskin the Reptile. Raskin is super dumb about magical stuff. He's got a -2 to this roll. Vilde's a little smarter, but it seems to be saying that we're making it against Raskin's stats, so that's what we're doing. So we roll our 2d6, we subtract our 2, and we end up with a total of 6, which is less than 8. So we take a look at this body, 2 puncture wounds, drained of blood, drained of everything, honestly. Insides completely dissolved and sucked out, leaving a dried husk covered with white filament. Yeah, sure, that could be a vampire, I suppose. Turns out, though, there's a witch hunter in the crowd, and he immediately gets everyone all riled up, saying he's gonna go and root out the culprit from amongst the crowd. A red-haired woman in the crowd respectfully disagrees, saying, "Hey, dummy, we're all standing out in the sunlight. Clearly, no one's a vampire here." To which the witch hunter thoughtfully replies, "Hey, shut up, who's the witch hunter here? Don't tell me how to do my job." The woman is a little bit annoyed at this because she has this brother who is a little bit different, and she's worried that this witch hunter is just going to go off and burn at the stake anybody like that. Yeah, I played witch hunters in Mordheim quite a bit. That's fair. So because Raskin the Reptile is such a swell guy, we agree to go find the brother who lives in a shack outside of town and make sure the witch hunter doesn't summarily execute him. So on our way there, it turns out the woman was more right than she knew, and there is a frenzied mob just going crazy, beating up innocent people. This is going to be our first combat encounter. We are facing off against 5 ordinary mooks. Each of these guys has 3 health, they have action dice of d6 +2, and they have the ability Gang Up. So if they're attacking someone who is also adjacent to one of their allies, then the mooks get a +2. Doesn't sound particularly dangerous to me, I think my guys can handle it. The scenario booklet also gives us stats for the innocents. but it doesn't tell me how many there are, how they're deployed, what they do during their turns, whether the frenzied mob attacks them and what happens if they get killed. So you know what? I'm just going to leave them off the table. They're somewhere behind this little battle grid and we don't have to worry about them. We get a sprinkling of terrain which set up like that, and we're ready to start. 3 tokens for each side go in the bag of destiny. We draw one and it's the bad guys. So the frenzied mob gets to move first. The closest model is the one that activates first, and so we're going to go with the guy towards the bottom. He got pushed way out in front because there was another model and a bunch of terrain occupying the space that he otherwise would have gone into. So he moves his 4 squares straight towards Raskin and Jill. So now we draw a good guy die, and hey, like a lot of these combat challenges, I think Raskin's just going to take care of this for the whole group. He's got 2 actions a turn, but he's going to use his second wind, his once per combat challenge ability. So now he's got 3 actions. First action is just going to move him into contact with that lead villager. Then he's going to use his remaining 2 actions to use heavy blow. So that's going to work just like a regular attack. We're going to roll our 2d6 and add his swordsmanship skill of +4, which is a lot. Would have been even more impressive if he hadn't gone out of the gate and rolled a double 1 for his attack skill. Not looking so great out there, Raskin. Fortunately, the villager rolls a 2 on his d6, adding another 2 that gives him 4, so I still end up with a 6 to a 4. Didn't exactly get there in style, but I do deliver the 2 wounds that heavy blow causes. Next activation is another member of the angry mob, so his friend moves up behind the lead guy with the scythe. Then another bad guy activation, and the 3rd villager moves up in support. So that's all the bad guy activations, just good guys from now on. Raskin makes an attack against the thug that he's already wounded, just a regular attack. Again, rolls pretty bad, gets a 3 with his +4, that gets him to 7. Still managed to get a wound through. The villager only managed to roll a 4. Kills off the villager, they only have 3 health. Use my second action to move into contact with the thug to the north. And I know the last activation is going to be me, going to do a heavy blow using up both of my actions against that thug on the north. Land a solid hit with a 10 to a 7, gives him 2 wounds. New round, so the tokens go back in the bag. We draw a good guy token, so Raskin's going to go again. He shouts over his shoulder to Vilde and Jill and says, "Hey, watch this." Lands another attack against the thug, kills him off, moves 1 square down to get into contact with the guy with the jaunty hat and the pitchfork. Bad guy activation, so now that guy gets to try and stab me. He rolls a 6, but Raskin defends with 2d6 plus 2, manages to get himself a 10, easily parries the attack. Back to Raskin, fancy hat or no, he's going to land a heavy blow on this guy. 14 to a 6, can't defend against that, takes 2 wounds. Back to the bad guys, we've still got some villagers in reserve, so one of them moves up to support. Probably going to get there a little bit too late. Sure enough, the good guys get their 3rd activation. Raskin kills the thug, 13 to 8. Decides to hang out there, let the bad guys come to him. And they do indeed. The last pitchfork villager moves up to support his friend. New round, tokens back in the bag, Raskin gets the 1st activation. Moves up to the guy with the hammer. Goes and rolls another double 1. That gives us 6, but the villager rolls a 1 himself and only ends up with 3. I guess you can't argue with success, and the villager takes a wound. Couldn't use heavy blow, of course, because I had to use one of my actions to actually move up in front of him. We get a 2nd good guy activation. I guess Raskin spent too much time on the off-season. Still not swinging that hammer real well. Rolls a 3, which with a +4 goes up to 7. That villager manages to defend it. Rolls a 6, +2 gets him an 8. Well, good job, guy. Not only that, now it's the bad guy's turn to strike back, so that same villager goes and attacks, rolls himself a respectable 5, +2 that gives him 7. Raskin rolls his defense 2d6, gets himself a 5 as well, +2 also gets him 7. Tie goes to the defender in this game, but then I remember they have the gang up skill. Raskin's adjacent to 2 of these villagers. That means that the guy attacking gets its further +2, gives him a 9. Dude bonks a wound off of Raskin. You little piece of garbage. We then get a 2nd bad guy activation right after that. New pitchfork guy, though, rolls a 1. Not as good as the guy with the hammer. That does go up to 5, but Raskin easily defends it with a 9. We then get the 3rd bad guy activation in a row, back to the thug with the hammer. He rolls a ho-hum 3, but with that +4 stat he's got right now, because a friend in combat, that gives him a 7. Not too worried, though, until Raskin goes and rolls his 3rd double 1 of the game. Come on, man, get it together. Raskin only gets a 4, he takes another wound. You're embarrassing yourself. Might as well get Vilde and Jill in here if you're going to roll like that. Finally, we get the last good guy activation. You know what? We're not to that point just yet. Raskin can make this happen. Goes and uses heavy blow against that hammer thug, the one that's been causing me so many problems. This time we do pretty well. Roll an 8, gives us a 12. Hammer thug really gives it his all, though. Rolls a maximum 8 himself. Still takes 2 wounds and dies, though. Sad, really. That guy had spirit. New round, tokens back in the bag. We draw another Raskin token. Strikes the last villager. Gets a 14 to his 3. Gives him 2 wounds because he's using heavy blow. Thug strikes back. He's gonna miss. Doesn't get that +2 gang up bonus anymore because all his friends are dead. Ends up with a 6 to my 8. And then we're back to Raskin. Kills off the last challenger 11 to 4. So those guys were a little spicier than I anticipated. Took 2 wounds from that. Not too worried. Hopefully we shook out all the bad dice rolls. Raskin's got plenty more wounds. We move on. And we move on to another narrative challenge. This time we find a branching path in the woods. The tracks lead off one way, but Raskin thinks the other way might be a shortcut. I'm not sure why he thinks he can outpace all the locals who know this area, but that's Raskin for you. We'll see if he's right. He has to make a survival roll with a difficulty of 9. Raskin's been working on his survival. He's not as bad at it as he is some other things. He's got no modifier. Still, we roll the dice, we get 5. Sure enough, we fail. It is not, in fact, a shortcut. We show up to the next combat challenge a little bit late, and we are at disadvantage, which means in the first round, the bad guys are going to have an extra token in the bag. So we get to the Brothers Shack, and sure enough, the bad guys are already there, and they've got the place surrounded. There's 4 more of these frenzied mob, and a bunch of them have pushed themselves way forward because of that big shack in the center. Way in the top right corner, you can see the last frenzied mob member and the witch hunter himself. The witch hunter, as you would expect, is a little bit burlier. He's got 6 health, he's got an action dice of d8 plus 2, and he has a pistol, which he can use to shoot up to 6 squares away. I have a little bit of a problem because while Raskin was walking through the woods looking around like an idiot, Vilde and Jill rushed out in front of him to go help. And so because of the terrain pieces, they got pushed way out in front, which is not where I want them. Especially since the bad guys have an extra token in the bag and it's more likely that they're going to go first, and sure enough they do. So the lead thug rushes out right in front of Jill. That terrain just pushed them really close together. Tries to crack her on the head with that club of his. He's going to roll a d6 plus 2. She's going to roll 2d6 minus 2. He gets himself a 5. She gets herself a 3. Oh, that's not great. Jill takes a wound. Next activation is a good guy activation. You know what? This is an opportunity for Jill to show what she's got. She's going to take a swing at this punk. Can't let Raskin have all the fun. She rolls 2d6, ends up with a 5 minus 2. That brings her down to 3. No good. The thug rolls a miserable 1 himself, but with his plus 2 also ends up with a 3. Tie goes to the defender. No damage is caused. Nice try. Unfortunately, I didn't think about that real carefully because now we are going to activate another bad guy, and he's in range 2, moves up and takes a swing at Jill, and now she's facing down 2 opponents, which means they get their gang up bonus. That's okay, I have faith in her, but man, these villagers are rolling pretty hot. Gets himself a total of 9. Jill rolls okay, rolls 8 on the die, but with a minus 2 brings her down to 6. She takes another wound. Okay, good guy activation. Now it's getting kind of serious. Raskin's got to go and do something about this. Goes and uses second wind. 3 actions. First action to move in. Next 2 actions are to use heavy blow. Absolutely crushes 2 wounds onto this bald guy, 12 to 8. We then get our third and final good guy activation for the round. Raskin goes and kills that guy off with a 13 to an 8 as well. Should probably have used my second action to move further up. Didn't even think about it. So 2 more activations left in the bag for the bad guys. The next one to go will be this jaunty guy with the double hammers. Moves into a flanking position to help out his buddy. And finally we have the witch hunter. Hops over that rock that was just south of him, moves around the shack and takes a shot just barely within range, but shoots at Jill. D8 plus 2 gives him a total of 8. Jill tries to defend. 2d6 comes up with a 7 minus 2, that's a 5. The shot lands true, and Jill has just 1 health remaining. All the tokens go back in the bag, and it's a real rush to see if we can do something about this situation. Raskin needs to move in there and either start taking hits for Jill, or Jill needs to activate and use one of her small healing potions. Unfortunately, it was not to be. We get a bad guy activation, so that thug right in front of Jill goes and swings. He's getting a massive plus 4 to his skill because he's got a buddy right next to him, but he rolls a 2, gets a 6, and Jill defends with a double 6. That's the stuff. Okay, we got some breathing room. All we need is a good guy activation. We're going to get Raskin in there, and Jill should be relatively safe for the round. But we don't. We get another bad guy activation. So Mr. Hammers moves into flanking position on Jill. Again, doesn't roll phenomenally. Only gets a total of 6, but the dice abandon Jill at this moment. Can only get a 5. just barely fails at defending the shot. She takes her 4th wound and goes unconscious. Oh, I'm sorry, Jill. We'll revive you if we can, but that's life in the service of Raskin the Reptile. Just has a real hard time keeping his companions alive. So Raskin is very upset about this. Can't wait till he can start bludgeoning these frenzied mob people to death. This day has not gone the way he wanted, and he still doesn't get the opportunity. The bad guys get their 3rd activation in the row, so we're back to the Witch Hunter, who creeps forward and takes another shot, this time at Vilde. Now you're picking on my elf? Fortunately, this was a hastily loaded shot. The Witch Hunter only rolls a 1, which gives him a total of 3. Vilde's got a real good agility, a +2. Manages to get a 5, which isn't great, but it's enough to avoid the pistol shot. Okay, time for revenge. I know there's 3 tokens left in the bag, and I know they're all mine. First one, we're going to use heavy blow against this guy with the hammers that killed off Jill. I dropped 2 wounds on him with a 10 to an 8. Then with my 2nd activation, I'm going to go and attack him again. This time I get 13 to 6, kill him off, leap over his dead body to the next guy in the line. Where was this surge of action a moment ago? 3rd good guy activation, Raskin brings the hammer down on him with another heavy blow. 10 to a 4, that thug takes 2 wounds. Let that be a lesson to you guys. New round, tokens go back in the bag. We draw the bad guys, they go first. The thug is the closest guy, he's going to attack Raskin. Not so tough without your buddies around. Gets himself a 6. Raskin defends with a double 6, gets himself 14. Hit Raskin on the head all you want, he's not going to feel it. 2nd activation is also a bad guy. We're over to that Witch Hunter. He's getting a bad sense about this rampaging mercenary, so he takes a shot at him. Gets himself an 8, which isn't bad. Raskin's agility is only so-so. Still, rolls a 10, no modifier, no bullet for Raskin. So it's finally a good guy activation. Raskin goes and kills that thug 13 to 3, leaving another body on this trail that he's making. He then moves his 4 squares straight into combat with the Witch Hunter. I'm a little bit sick of you, sir. We get another good guy activation. Witch Hunter, meet hammer. We use heavy blow. We get an 11 on the dice, which brings us up to 15. There's no defending against that. Witch Hunter takes a shot straight to that pilgrim hat he's wearing. Takes 2 wounds. But then we get our 3rd good guy activation. We're going to continue on the attack, but the bloodlust has started to cool. Raskin only managed to roll a total of 8. The Witch Hunter goes and defends himself with a 9. Nicely done, only 1 activation left, and that's the last bad guy. Remember that one dude with the clubs who was around the other side of the shack? He finally gets to do something, starts moving around. New round, reset the tokens. Raskin gets to go first. Oh, we got a fancy swordsman, do we? Alright. Put a little more effort into this attack, gets herself a total of 8 to the Witch Hunter's 6. Witch Hunter takes another set of 2 wounds. Witch Hunter goes and draws his saber. A pretty nice thrust. He rolls his maximum of 10. Raskin has a +2 brawn to defend, rolls an 8, gets himself a total of 10. Tie goes to the defender, just barely dodges it. And then we're back to the good guys, no more messing around. Raskin brings down the hammer one last time on the Witch Hunter, gets a total of 8 to his 3, takes away the last 2 wounds with that heavy blow skill of his. Witch Hunter falls down in a crumpled heap. But we've still got one more bad guy running around. Vilde sees him sneaking around the side of the shack, so he's gonna take a shot with that longbow of his. Vilde has a mighty +3 to his archery skill, but now it's his turn to roll a double 1. Gets himself a total of 5. The thug goes and defends himself with a 7. Vilde, you missed, you loser. There goes an arrow. That stuff costs money. So now the thug rolls in and tries to attack Raskin. Rolls himself a respectable 8. That's the maximum, but Raskin's got that +2 brawn. Defends himself with an 8 of his own. Another bad guy token means the thug can try it again, though. This time only rolls a 5. Raskin easily defends with a 9. New round, reset the tokens. Back to the bad guys. This thug's going to try it again. Gives it a good shot. 8v8. Raskin's avoiding these wounds just by the skin of his teeth. But now it's a good guy activation. He moves around, drops the hammer on this thug with the heavy blow, gets him with an 8v5. Back to the thug who's gonna miss, 7 to 9. Third bad guy activation. Again, it's a miss. Raskin defends with a double 6. Nothing you can do about that. Over to the good guys. Vilde, I'm gonna let you try and redeem yourself. Let's see if you can get the killing shot on this thug. No, he goes and rolls another double 1. However, the thug goes and rolls a 2 on his die. That gives him a total of 4 to Vilde's 5. Vilde misses by a mile, but the ricochet goes and catches the thug in the ear. He falls down. We've won this combat challenge. Ah, but Jill. We lost Jill. That makes me mad. What's up, brother? What do you have to say for yourself? Well, the brother comes out, and he's this hunchback. He seems kind of insane or broken or something, keeps babbling about how he's actually a bad guy, but he's safe for now, and I just really didn't like that witch hunter very much. I'm glad he's gone. So we go back to town to tell that one red-haired woman that her brother is safe. Maybe don't mention exactly how many townspeople we killed in order to accomplish that result, but whatever. She says, "Fantastic, tell you what, close your eyes and I'll give you your reward." Oh, okay, that seems super legitimate. Hey, wait a minute. We have to make another narrative challenge. Raskin has to roll a 9 or above on a wisdom check to see if this is really the best idea. Now, if he had noticed anything suspicious about that body in the beginning, with that arcane check that he failed, then he'd get a +2 to this roll. But he didn't, and so he's got to cold roll this with his wisdom check, which is a -1. Now, it just seems like, eventually, Raskin the Reptile is going to learn from all of his mistakes, and he's going to pass one of these narrative challenges. He's going to suspect that something bad is about to happen, and he's just going to, not stumble straight forward into whatever trap is set. But today is not that day. He rolls a miserable 6 with his -1 that gives him a 5, and he says, "Okay, sure," and he closes his eyes, and the woman transforms into a big nasty spider and bites him and poisons him. Nice going, Raskin. So it's a new combat challenge. Raskin's gonna try and defeat the Red Widow, a big spider lady who was the cause of the death in the beginning. Vilde rushes into the room to help out, but Raskin has been poisoned, which means that he can only move 1 square now. Serves you right, you dummy. The Red Widow has 8 health and action dice of a D8 plus a D6. It also has a 6-square ranged attack, but when she uses that, she's only rolling a D6 plus 2. Kinda shooting web bullets like Spider-Man, I guess. We've got a scattering of terrain, as we can see. I'm not exactly sure what the architect was thinking putting those support beams where they are, but, I'm not an architect, so how can I criticize? So we set up the token bag, and we draw a good guy first. With Raskin being poisoned and being super slow and everything, I'm going to start off with Vilde. Vilde's got 3 arrows left, so he's going to take a shot. The longbow has a range of 10, so he has to move down 1 square to get into range. Takes a shot and misses, gets himself an 8, and the Red Widow defends with a mighty 12. In return, the Red Widow moves up and takes a shot of her own, shooting at Vilde. Now it's her turn to miss. D6 plus 2 ends up with a 7. Vilde's rolling 2d6 plus 2, unsurprisingly, cartwheels out of the way, getting a 9. Back to the good guys. Raskin's still recovering, so we're over to Vilde again. Gets himself a 10. Red Widow can't defend this time, rolls a miserable 3. Vilde has a special rule, Elven Accuracy, which means that he hits with a score of 10 or more, he causes 2 wounds. So that's 2 wounds plinked off the big mad spider. Back to the Widow, she shoots back. Again, doesn't roll well enough, gets a 4 to Vilde's 8. Over to the good guys again, Vilde takes a shot, again rolls a 10. Red Widow can't defend with just a 5, takes 2 more wounds down to half health. Nice job, Vilde, but you are out of arrows and you are bad at sword fighting. So we'll see how all this goes. Final activation of the round is over to the bad guys. Red Widow is a little mad about all these arrows sticking out of her, takes a careful shot, hits Vilde with a 7, and he doesn't defend. Rolls himself a 4, double ones again, Vilde. Vilde takes his first wound of the game. New round. Raskin needs to get in there and do some hammer work. He gets the first activation and moves a whole 1 square up. Another good guy activation, and yep, a little bit further. Over to the bad guys. Widow is now going to take a shot at Raskin because he's the closest model. Rolls pretty bad though, only gets a 3, so even Raskin with his kind of mediocre agility manages to defend it. So she takes another shot. This time she rolls a 7 to Raskin's 8, again misses, and her third activation in a row, again a 7, again Raskin dodges out of the way with a 10. Raskin's got no modifier for his agility, he's just rolling real well. Third activation for the good guys, and Raskin staggers off to his left, just lining up a run onto the Red Widow. New round, tokens back in the bag. We get a good guy and Raskin staggers forward. Get another good guy activation. He staggers forward a little bit more. We're so close, I could use second wind to go and get in there. But I don't think I will because the spider bites harder in hand-to-hand combat. I'll let her shoot her regular shots and I'll save my second wind so I can use heavy blow later on. Red Widow's getting a little bit nervous. This dumb mercenary has managed to stagger his way across the room and she's almost in hammer range now. Goes and fires off another barrage of webbing. This time she rolls the maximum 8 and Raskin does not defend with a 5. He takes another wound. Red Widow gets another activation. She rolls a 5 this time. Raskin manages to defend it with a 5 of his own. And then a good guy activation, the moment he's been waiting for. We're going to use second wind. We're going to get ourselves 3 actions. First one is to move into contact with the Red Widow, and then we're going to use the last 2 actions for heavy blow. Very dramatic, or at least it would be if he didn't mess it up. Rolled 4 on the dice, gives himself a total of 8, and the Red Widow had all the time in the world to get out of the way of that one. Gets herself a 10 to dodge. And now Red Widow gets an activation. Now she's rolling a nice D6 plus D8 to attack. But she rolls pretty poorly, gets herself a 6. Raskin easily defends with an 11. New round tokens back in the bag. It goes straight to the Red Widow again. This time she rolls a lot better, gets herself an 11. Raskin's defense is still on point though, 11 of his own. I feel he has saved a lot of wounds with this tie goes to the defender thing. It's over to the good guys. Raskin gets an activation with that hammer of his. Lands a pretty solid shot, getting himself a 12. Red Widow only rolls a 3, takes another 2 wounds. But we're back to the big angry spider, rolls herself a 9 again. Raskin defends with exactly a 9. You are living on a prayer there, Raskin. We get another good guy activation, so Raskin goes and winds up that heavy hammer blow of his. He does one thing, but he does it well, rolls himself a 13 on the attack. That's going to be hard to defend, and sure enough, the Red Widow doesn't. Rolls 10 to defend, she takes another 2 wounds, and dies. So that's it, we've won the adventure. So yeah, turns out that woman from the beginning was a big scary spider. She killed the villager by the well. The hunchback was not actually her brother, it was just some poor dope that she had threatened into doing her bidding. He tried to dump the body by the well, but it was discovered. He's real sorry about the whole thing. You know who also should be sorry? Raskin. I mean, yeah, he killed off a monster, that's good, but he also killed off, like, a witch hunter and 9 townsfolk. You know what? Nah, I take it back. Those people were not nice people. They were just as dumb as Raskin, had no idea this woman was a spider, and they just went off on a murder rampage of their own. They just weren't as good at it as we were. So another win for our heroes. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to use the revive potion to get Jill back up on her feet. We also get 1 skill point. Raskin's going to put that into survival. So now he has a +1 modifier to that skill. Hopefully he's learned a few things. That also puts him at level 4. Level 4 for a mercenary, we can choose +1 swordsmanship or +1 starting health. Our swordsmanship is pretty good. I really don't need to invest more points in that. I'll give him a health buff. We're also going to restock Vilde with his arrows, pay 5 wealth to do that. We didn't get any wealth in this adventure. No items, no money, only 1 skill point. We didn't exactly come out ahead in this, I don't think. Well, maybe we did. We did go up to 4th level, and we do get 1 more shot at identifying Jill's magic robe. Vilde's going to go and roll. He's got a +2 to this. We roll an 11 total. We needed a 10. Great job, Vilde. That thing has been with us since the Den of Rats scenario. We took that off of Masmar. Remember that guy? Well, now these robes can be used once to prevent a wound that would have taken the character out of action. Information came just a little bit too late for Jill's liking, but hopefully it'll help in the future. And that's it. I liked it. Nice little scenario. Some things were a little unclear, but it was a little bit more of a challenge than I expected. I mean, really, Raskin is geared up. He is a powerful character, and we are at the very edge of what this thing was designed for. But still, Vilde took a wound, Raskin took a bunch of wounds, Jill got taken out, and really, Raskin, he could have taken a lot more wounds than he did, just barely rolling to defend with an equal roll against the attacker. But I liked it, and we're definitely going to hear more from him. Leave a comment below if you have any questions, observations, or concerns, and hopefully I'll see you on the next one.